Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah.
A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to HJN and the Legacy of Supers. So today's installment will specifically focus on yet another Marvel-related villain, Eddie Brock, Venom. Now, specifically speaking, Venom, of course, is one of the biggest nemesises that Spider-Man has to face. I don't know if there's such a thing as plural for nemesis, nemesisi. I don't know. Well, anyways, the story of Venom is pretty intricate and actually just one of the greatest I might have ever had the irony of reading about, because Eddie Brock, of course, works for the New York newspaper company, the same type that Spider-Man actually works with, Peter Parker in general. But however, thanks to some incriminating article that Eddie wrote, and the fact that Spider-Man was actually able to exploit the real criminal on the same day that the article itself was published, Eddie got completely humiliated because of it. And to make matters worse, well, Eddie Brock got fired from the newspaper publishing company, as well as a disownmentship of the family. And of course, Eddie had actually been married, but they end up getting separated because of that whole entire ordeal. That was three awful things that happened in the same time. Let's not forget that also, according to Spider-Man related lore based on the story of Venom, Eddie Brock also had cancer during that time. So, as devastating as that may be, that was in fact one of the biggest changes to ever occur in a character's life. And of course, it would eventually lead to this kind of character turning into one of the biggest foes that Spider-Man would have to face, Venom. And how Eddie Brock got the symbiote as well, that same exact symbiote had bonded with Spider-Man, especially when you look at Spider-Man 3 in the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man films. So basically speaking, there was a clock tower that Spider-Man practically got up to and tried to remove the symbiote by smashing into the bell of that steeple, of course. Then, of course, the symbiote just comes off and lands on Eddie, who was just standing right below Peter Parker at the time. I mean, that was a pretty bad time to screw up there, because now Eddie's got the symbiote, so. And then the whole rest of the film is just self-explanatory. Eddie Brock basically goes after Spider-Man after the symbiote basically just has that sort of desire to try and feast on the living. After all, common lore, again, basically points out that the symbiote is actually addicted to the chemical phenethylamine, which can be found in some mushrooms, chocolate. Yeah, oddly enough, this chemical is found in some chocolate. And it's also found in brain matter. That's right. A zombie is in the Marvel Universe. Well, anyways, long story short, the end of Spider-Man 3 basically shows the symbiote being blown to bits from one of the New Goblin's bombs, and with Eddie following close behind. They both die in the wake of the explosion, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. Venom dies. Sandman pretty much, well, I guess I'll talk more about Sandman later, but anyways, Spider-Man 3 was pretty amazing for what it was. A bit of a transition into the series, but it's too bad that they couldn't go anywhere further, because that's when Sony stepped up and decided to reboot the series in general, because of how some ratings critics were giving to them at the time. Those three films were amazing for what they were, but too bad we don't really look back on them as good as we used to. Well, anyways, that's pretty much it that I gotta talk about Venom in general, so I guess I'll just leave it there. Just leave it at that. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.